welcome to a very special Bantams Banter. Although it's not really Bantams Banter. It's Tom and Dom talking to Ryan Sparks, head of comms at Bradford City. Now, football's obviously not top of the agenda for us all at the minute. We're all in lockdown, but we are going to try and have a talk about the club. Try and get a few answers from Ryan. Maybe there's a few questions you fans have that are unclear. Maybe you think that stuff coming out of the club's unclear. Well, Ryan's here to clear it up. Ryan, thanks for joining us on this Zoom call.
Good evening, Dom and Tom. How are you?
Good, yeah. How are you, Ryan? More to the point, are you busy or?
Yeah, pretty busy. Obviously, I've not been furloughed, so we are working and we're working from home. And the days are different. You know, they're not like they are at the stadium, but they're certainly filled. You know, the hours in the week are no shorter than they were, sometimes longer. And it's made a bit more difficult given the situation and the lack of clarity that we're working with. It makes it tricky.
Well, yeah, that's I guess is the first question. And I know you've answered this before previously, but for anyone who's not seen those, what is it like to be at a football club during all of this? Because obviously for us fans, we're all just thinking we want to come into Valley Parade and we want to watch some football. We're desperate for it. But you're there, you're watching everything operate. How difficult is it?
Well, it's pretty surreal actually, Dom, because it's like no other. I mean, everyone uses the word unprecedented. I've run out of words for it. There's nothing like it. You know, I spent the last 8-9 weeks sat in my own house trying to do my bit for our club, along with Julian and Mark and Paula, and trying to keep it together, quite frankly. And you know, and making difficult decisions, taking the season tickets off sale. That's a big move. Not many clubs have done it, but we did it for what we believe are the right reasons. You know, we've got players that are out of contract, some players that have already left us. Tough decisions, unable to give people clear answers, unable to give our own staff answers. And there was a statement issued earlier tonight that, again, is a bit of just pushing it on a little bit further. We seem to be in this stalemate in English football. But yeah, it's pretty surreal. I've been down at the stadium a couple of times, but not many. A little bit around the memorial time, obviously. It's so quiet at the stadium. Yeah. It's very strange because obviously it's a little busy part of Bradford, and you know wherever you are at Valley Parade during the day, there's noise. It's a bustling environment, and it's just so quiet. And you see the reception closed. It's kind of sad, really. But it's where we are. It's very strange.
Are you speaking to players at all at the moment? Are you in touch with them on a daily basis? What sort of relationship you got going with them? Are you?
So I mean, I've been speaking with Clayton Donaldson, Richard O'Donnell, and Jake Reeves, kind of like the leadership arm of the squad, if you like. I had a chat with Clayton tonight on the back of the statement that we made, and just talking about what may or may not happen, and you know, having a chat. Really, it's all opinion led because we'll be led by the governing bodies. But what we have been doing is communicating on a weekly basis with the squad. So we're sending an email out. There's some key information in there about the latest and some advice from government and the PFA and all the other things that they may need to know. And then I just write a quick overview of the latest in terms of where are we actually at. Get rid of the back pages from the national newspapers, the actual facts, where they're at. And I guess that allows them to at least know where they stand. And that's all we can offer. It's really difficult.
Yeah. I mean, on that, and talking about the AFL, there are obviously 71 other football league clubs that you know are struggling at this time. It's not just us. Bradford City, at the minute, for the last year or so at least, have been a fairly tightly run ship. You know, we're well aware that the Bucks are in better shape than they've been for a long time. You know, this current predicament aside.
Yeah.
But what are the AFL doing to support clubs like Bradford and you know clubs that are in a worse situation than us financially?
Well, I think the thing is with that, Dom, it's an interesting question, but I've always been of the belief, and it's the belief shared by Julian and Stefan, that the EFL is not there to run a club. It's a governing body. It's there to govern the sport. It is there to make, you know, they believe at the minute they have the powers and executive to make decisions on the conclusion of this season, although they are going to put it in front of the clubs. I'm not sure that's the right thing to do. Maybe they should make a decision. But in terms of what they can do for Bradford City, we don't expect them to do anything. Let's start with that. They have they provided an upfront payment of TV money in March, along with a loan. We took both to safeguard as far as we can We've got to trade through the next few months that are going to be very difficult. We have got, fingers crossed and no issues elsewhere, transfer money due in around the Oliver McBurney deal, which I've discussed before. But we have got to work through the next few months. There is Premier League solidarity money that could be forwarded if they would like it, but the EFL have currently decided not to bring that forward. I think they have a view that clubs could be collectively kicking the can down the road. I don't necessarily agree with that, actually. I don't necessarily agree, rather, with that, because I think we need to deal with the here and now, or there won't be a can down the road to pick up. So we have to survive, and it's not just us. In terms of integrity of the competition, which is what they've said from day one, is their paramount what they've said is of paramount importance to them. Surely the survival of the 72 clubs has got to be that important.
Yeah, I completely agree.
71. Let's not forget they've already one of them has already dropped off.
70 others, of course. But in the same breath, it's just like a lot of people came for the EFL over the Bury situation. I don't think so. I think when we had our problems, and they're well documented, the summer of madness, I call it, 2018, and picked up some of the most expensive contracts this club's had in probably since the Premier League days, and tried to run with them, and made a stunning £4 million loss across the last 19 months. 2 seasons, really. We do not blame the EFL for that. It's not our fault. We did it.
No.
We didn't. I'm not going to be. It's not me. It's not Julie. We didn't do it, but it happened, right?
Yeah.
And Bradford City is responsible for that. It's not the EFL. If we'd have gone bust, it would have happened. End of. And that's why our owner has to pick up the pieces for those couple of years, I'm afraid.
I suppose the fans, from my point of view, I'd worry about how long we can survive, sustain, paying full contracts. I know loan players have gone back. And I know you can't put a number on that. And what if, they were saying, we're not going to play football this year? Luckily we've got McBurney money coming, like you say. Can we realistically afford to pay staff, to pay players, to pay everybody up until December potentially? I'm not saying that's going to happen, but do you have a contingency in place for anything like that?
We're building the contingencies, and we have to. And obviously at the moment it's hard to give future guarantees on players that are out of contract, and we'd love to be able to do that very quickly. But we need to know when this season's going to end. That is really important. Yeah. And the next most important thing is, when's next season going to start? And it is likely that there will be a season next season in this calendar year, but it's likely it will be behind closed doors. So we then need to work on very hard the iFollow agreement. What revenue can we draw from TV? What additional commercial revenue can we raise? Can we get kits on sale? Many, many things that will provide revenue. If all those questions go unanswered for the next 6 months, then we're in a position where clubs across the EFL are probably going to be mothballed. Yeah. And we all just, we sit back and just let a season run until the following season, which is quite frankly unthinkable. And we certainly don't hope that doesn't happen. But it would be wrong of us not to prepare for all eventualities. So the contingencies are in place. It's literally our day-to-day conversation. What if? Yeah. And that's it's really difficult to work with because, and I've said this before, when you have a crisis, usually you know the rough end date of that crisis. And I'm going to be honest with you, last season was a crisis, but we knew when it was going to end. And we knew that in March and April last year, we could start putting it right. And I'd argue that we tried to do that both on and off the field. Perhaps it hasn't worked out how we wanted it, but we certainly had a go. We tried to get promoted this season. There's no doubt about that. We spent third highest amount in the division. But without having that end date to the crisis, to some degree, you are making it up as you go along, and that's dangerous. That is very dangerous. And it's dangerous for us, but it's dangerous for clubs that were already in great danger before the outbreak of COVID-19, and there are some.
I was going to say, though, it's not just us, is it? I think that even the EFL are to some extent making it up as they go along, like we all are in life. Outside of football, we're all just taking it day to day. If the EFL were in the next couple of days to make a decision based on one of those potential outcomes,
yes,
what would be the club's preference? Would the club want the season to just finish now? They say the season's done, we'll start again whenever it's safe to do so, or do you want one of the alternatives?
I think there is a financial danger across the division if we are asked to play behind closed doors, because it would release the furlough arrangement with our squad. There'd be very little, if any, income at all. Maybe I follow, but I'm not sure they'd turn it around fast enough. And we'd be paying our full wage bill, which is pretty scary. So obviously pressure would come. and without enough revenue, our owner would have to help with that, and he would. But it's not where, I mean, Julian Rose spoke about a blank check situation. That is a blank check. So you do not want to get to that, because that check could become bigger and bigger. Our preferred choice, quite frankly, is whatever's best to uphold the integrity of the divisions. We accept that any chance of us making the playoffs would probably be knocked on the head by that. But frankly, it has to come to a conclusion, and it has to come pretty soon, because we are running out of time. And the most frustrating thing for us, I guess, is what's happening with next season, because we're currently in a position where we've removed our season ticket sales. We've got kits that are sat in factories. We have stopped, our business has stopped, and it's stopped because we don't know what's happening next season. This season is to some degree irrelevant in that sense. We're happy to work with whatever comes, but it needs to be right for the wider game. There is some talk that there wouldn't be relegation, there would only be promotion.
Right.
Struggle to see how that upholds the integrity of a competition. What about Barrow at the top of the National League, have pumped $500,000 in? How is that fair?
Yeah, it's a massive debate, isn't it?
You're absolutely right. And I think that it's easier if you take a look at the Premier League now. Liverpool, let's say they've spent $100 million to get to the position that they're in. Yes. If the Premier League just said, right, that's it, Premier League's done, Liverpool are going to say, well, we're suing you for £1 billion because we've spent 100 million trying to get to where we were, the potential prize money and blah, blah, blah. So we're suing you. So the Premier League can't afford to do that, because if Liverpool sue them, European qualification, anybody in that top six is going to sue them. And going right back down the leagues, you're looking at League Two, League One, Championship, all of those have got great financial gains if they go up, and they've already got a lot invested. So what if the EFL suggested to the club, all clubs, we'll finish this season. This season will be finished no matter when. Even if it's December, we'll finish it. Next season is the season to be sacrificed. What would the club do then?
Well, I mean, quite frankly, we'd have to do if we were to vote on that, I'm not sure we'd vote to do that, because at the end of the day, we still have no clear guidance on what's the best thing to do with our players that are out of contract. We wouldn't, if for example, all of our out of contract players weren't able to play for us, we wouldn't have enough players to fulfill the games. We'd have to, quite frankly, use our juniors and even borrow players. There are some clubs that have got less than 6 players on the books for next season and have categorically stated publicly, we are not making any re-signings no matter what. So I think the backs are against the wall a little bit on that, Dom. I don't think it's realistic to cancel next season. I think it's at threat. I think there's a chance that next season is at threat. Certainly in terms of bums on seats and supporters in the stadium. I must admit, when I went to Valley Parade last week, I sat in the ground and I couldn't see it. I couldn't imagine us playing behind closed doors. I don't see it. But in the same breath, I don't see any supporters watching football anytime soon, because it's not really safe. No. And as the EFL have stated tonight, they're still waiting for someone to give them a rough idea of how a testing program could work. The cost of that would be astronomical. There are clubs in our division who haven't paid their wages in full and things like that. How on earth could we get to a point where we're then churning out money for testing? I don't know if it's immoral.
I think the testing thing's a difficult one, because obviously the NHS and carers and key workers need to be prioritised. And I know that a lot of people think, well, why are you so bothered about football when there's all this other stuff going off? And I get that, but people are just looking at it from like a supporter's point of view. They're not. I don't feel like people that are saying that are thinking about it from a financial point of view, an economical point of view. I work in sport. You obviously have got a job at the club, and I mean, I know that I understand the morale argument, and that's absolutely right. People love sport. A lot of people live for sport. I mean, you know as well as we do, that there are some of Bradford City fans in particular that literally live for Saturdays.
Yeah.
So there is that morale thing, and that's just another caveat to this whole massive thing that I wake up every morning thinking I'm glad I'm not having to deal with that. Not just trying to sort football out, but also trying to sort out everything else. Yeah. Football is just one problem in a massive, obviously, the grand scheme of things. But after the war was in the 40s, obviously, World War II finished. When that finished, they obviously didn't know how they were going to restructure the league. And to the best of my understanding, I think that they just did cup competitions. So there was no league, but they ran cup competitions to ensure that clubs were still making money. I just don't know if the game's come too
It
far.
was a bit different, though, wasn't it? That went on for a good few years, didn't it?
I think the big difference, quite frankly, Dom, is the paymaster. That's the broadcaster. And, you asked me then about next season. It's at some point, there was a bill of about 766 million, I think, that would be due if we cancelled the season. But I think I get the impression Sky's priority is on the Premier League and the Championship. And if League One and League Two fall foul, then so be it. But those two competitions at the moment, in my opinion, cannot restart. I'm not really bothered what they're doing in Germany and Italy. And it's kind of been flawed already. They've pushed them days back. We've got players with coronavirus. They've got some teams isolating before they've kicked a ball. That's just the tip of the iceberg. But we're trying to, quite frankly, drive a square bolt into a round hole at the moment to some degree. And I think the broadcast deal is so important. Quite frankly, without it, we haven't got the sport in its current guise. It becomes something else. Now, yeah, of course, the counter argument is, well, Amazon or Netflix will take the deal, possibly, but they might not be interested in League One and League Two. They might be interested in the Championship. They probably would be, but it is very important that the sport, as football, upholds its commercial agreements. And for example, leasing.com took the Checkatrade trophy on. They've not had the final yet. What's going to happen with that? They've not even had their big day. They've paid for it. Carabao, Emirates. There's not just Sky and BT and the international partners, but there are a lot of people they've got to satisfy. And I guess as a governing body, they couldn't come out and just say, "Oh, we're not that bothered. We're going to knock it on the head," because they've probably got wolves at the door.
Yeah, so much money in play, isn't there?
Than you think.
What would you do, Ryan? What would your ideal scenario be for the club? This is you personally. You're not speaking for the club now. You're speaking as a fan.
I think, quite frankly, the longer this goes on, it's heading one way. The season probably needs to be cancelled on a points per game system. We'd accept that. We'd take that on the chin. We understand that would mean us missing out on the playoffs. It's not what Stuart would want. It's not really what I want. But we have to accept where we are. If the coronavirus was beginning to clear, no one in this country was being infected or dying, which we are nowhere near, and there was a vaccine only weeks away, I would say, you know what, let's finish the season, let's do it the right way. But I just don't see how it's feasible. And no one has, I've sat on every EFL call for the last 6-7 weeks. I'm yet to be convinced how that's possible. And there are owners involved and there are directors at other clubs who are uncomfortable with potentially having to pass their players a waiver to play, some kind of agreement that says, you know what you're in for, sign here. I don't think that's realistic. I really don't.
What would you do, Dom? Would you stop it season?
I don't know really. I think in fewer words, I think it's $1 million question. I think it was a difficult question for Ryan, and he's at a club. He knows what's going on. Like he said, he's been on those EFL calls. It's a nightmare. I'm really pleased actually that football's not started to take unnecessary risks in this country. I think in Germany, it's potentially an unnecessary risk. I mean, they started training and 10 players across the two top divisions in Germany ended up with the coronavirus, and then clubs are in isolation. It's an unnecessary risk.
Yeah,
I get the financial factors. I get that economically this game needs to be able to save itself, and if it can't keep up those sponsorship deals and whatever else, it's going to be difficult. Player contract is difficult because it's not like you could have a virtual contract so that your contract continues now, but it doesn't strictly reset. It just keeps going for 6 months and nobody else is allowed to buy you or whatever. You can finish the season. But
just right on that point, we have an interesting scenario. So James Vaughan is now a Bradford City player again, but if we restart this season, he cannot play for us. Because he's played for two, he can't do it.
No way, because he's
I mean,
God.
The goalpost.
Does that not in itself though reveal?
That's just one little example. Yeah, there's loads of scenarios like that.
See what I mean? Why would you want to be dealing with that? If I were them, I'd just be like, right, do you know what? Cancel football. We'll think of something else.
I think they should just end it. I personally think they should end Leagues 1 and 2. Championship too much to play for money wise. I think they should end Leagues 1 and 2 now and conference. It's unfortunate for Barrow, like you say.
You're not listening though. What about it's easy. You can wake up one morning and think, cancel it. It's fine. But what about the financial implications? That's just me as a fan, Dom. I'm not saying I'm not saying I'm in charge of EFL. I'm just saying as a fan, my opinion is I'd be happy if it just ended.
I think here's the thing, right? If it ends and the broadcaster are not on board with it, and we get to August and the Sky payment isn't made to the EFL, there'll be clubs going out of business one after the other, because not only will you be relying on furlough money, your central distribution money, which is a linchpin right now, when our income streams are just about nothing outside of their own club lottery. We would be we would again be wholly reliant on the owners of the clubs across the divisions, and it only needs. Let's not forget, owners of our clubs, and we have a wealthy owner ourselves. His own businesses have been impacted by this, and that's the same. Some of the conversations I'm hearing on the EFL calls, there are people that are like, look, I've got 4 businesses, I've got all sorts going on. The club's just my hobby, and I've got so. There's a lot more at play, than what it seems.
Oh yeah, it's tough, isn't it? Stressful.
So let's just switch to. I think this kind of fits in with what we've been trying to talk about. A couple of fans sent. We asked if anybody had questions for you, and a few, including Daniel Lara Norwich and Jeff Williams, asked about next season's kit.
Yeah.
Obviously, fans love a kit, and it seems kind of trivial, but bear with me. It seems trivial to be thinking about next season's kit.
No, it's
but it is that could be a financial option. It could be this shirt. It might only be worn for 3 months. We don't know what will happen next season. But I know that this COVID thing is something that none of us want. But it's an event in history. So thinking like that, kind of thinking of it from not thinking about the death point of view. People want to own things like that. Is there a way maybe the club could bring out the kit, and maybe 10% of it is donated to the NHS? You acknowledge that you might need to sell it for 35 quid, 40 quid still, but 10% will go to the NHS. The rest of it will go to trying to keep the club afloat. Because as rich as Stefan is, he's rich because the guy knows how to manage money. And you're only rich until your money runs out. And it'll run out if he's not got any coming in.
Yeah, look, cash flow's king, and the revenue streams, we've got to get them going. I was on a call today with Avec, our kit partners. Just so you know, our home kit would have actually come out on Monday, the Monday coming, if things were normal. Our away kit wouldn't have been far behind it. We have a third kit which we potentially would have launched inside the season towards Christmas. Our kits is currently not even in the UK. The point of where they should have been dispatched, China was in shutdown, which is where they're produced at the moment. And it's really frustrating because we've come up with, I think, 3 really good kits. I think they'd sell well. And obviously at a time like this, as much as we might not be able to guarantee what next season looks like, I think people would be quite keen to freshen up the colours. It's look, football fans love kits. We love making them. It's what it's all about. We've got big plans for the future on the kit front. But in terms of the short term, 100%. The kits are ready to go. We're discussing internally at the moment how fast we can turn it around from the secondary land, and that's looking like the end of June now, which is a little bit frustrating, but that's the truth. That's where we're at. I know there was a tweet I received about, shall we bring out a different shirt just to sell? But I think that would dilute away from what we're trying to achieve with the next set of kits.
Coventry did that, didn't they? Their supplier, who I think might be the same as ours, couldn't get enough new shirts in to sell fans more shirts. When was it? They were in some final. Was it the Checker trade or something?
Yeah, brought all the kit out. Yeah,
because they couldn't get the old template. Basically,
I can understand that. So that's where we're at, Dom. So yeah, it's very much on the agenda. It's right on the tip top. We are looking at other things, face masks that we can use, that we can sell to support the NHS. That's a conversation.
I'm going to say, isn't there commercial stuff you can sell? Is there any way of getting revenue in the club?
One thing we're very mindful of is that our sponsors, who are fantastic, are under immense pressure themselves. The commercial market for us is very, very quiet at the moment, and we intend to leave it that way. It's not the right time to be. We're just glad to have our partners, and when we get back, hopefully we can move forward. But it's what we can do to raise. Incremental revenue really from elsewhere, and then hopefully as soon as we have a date for next season, we can rebuild, or we can activate one of the sort of ideas we've got for the new season ticket. So I know it sounds like a new season ticket, but you can understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah,
it's probably going to look a bit different, and we're working on that at the minute. So we really are. We're not sat on our hands. We're trying to do what we can, but as I mentioned before, it does feel a little bit impossible at times, because when you take one step down one path, you realise you've got to go back down the other path.
So, again, this is trivial, and it does sound really weird asking it, but the fans have sent these questions in, and I'm going to ask them so that you can be as real as you can about these next season. So, a few people have asked about next season. I think I know the answer to this, but the biggest thing seems to be, has Stuart started thinking about building a squad for next season, whenever that might be? Because let's be honest, there are going to be players in there that Stuart doesn't want. That's how football works. And we know what Stuart wants in a squad, and it's not entirely there for him. Is he able, under the current climate, to think about rebuilding a squad?
Well, I think it's natural that any manager, pre the COVID outbreak and now, will be sat thinking, oh, I wonder if I could get him. I wonder if I could get him. I hope we can re-sign him. That's natural. The problem we have is, I was asked this question, what's the budget for next season? It's a question we cannot answer.
Oh, yeah.
We don't know how long the season's going to be.
There might not be one.
Well, when it starts, and if there was a budget, it might look very different now to how it might look in 3 months. It might even look better in 3 months. It depends where the game's at, what help we might have had. If the money that we're due in the summer, which will really aid us going into the autumn, has arrived on time, is there any issue with that? These are all the unanswered questions. So to answer your question pretty bluntly, Dom, next season's squad's not something we're focusing on at the moment, but it's not that we're not look, I can't speak for Stuart. Stuart knows his football, and I'm pretty sure he will be. He'll be thinking about what he may be able to do. But we might have to be very innovative on the squad, and I think we'll be one of many clubs doing that.
Some people are asking about Colville out of the Dom. Will you say that?
Well, I was going to try and stick to the incomings and outgoings.
Oh, sorry, go on.
Obviously, we saw Chris Taylor leave today.
Yes.
And he's, the fourth or fifth player to leave us for various different reasons.
Well, his contract ended yesterday, so.
Yeah, so can we expect any more outgoings? Are there any other players that are
we have Luke McGee and Glenn Middleton on loan. Their agreements with us come to an end, I think, on the 29th of May. It's unlikely, given the circumstances, as we've said, with both Dylan and the lads that we unfortunately had to let go, the loan lads, Dylan Connolly, Jamie Devitt, Callum Cook, really nice guys. Unfortunately, we had to let them go because we're in no position as a business to sit there and go, you know what, here's a new contract at that point. And it would have, and that's sadly just where we were then. With Luke and Glenn, obviously they're owned by other clubs, and naturally those loan agreements would have come to an end at the end of the season, and that's just the way. So you would expect those two guys. We'll see where we get to with them, but at the moment, the remaining players out of contracts are contracted to the club until the end of June. If we get going again and there's still a chance, then potentially all those guys will be playing anyway, regardless. And there's some talk of an extension till the end of July because there is a month where the contracts can run to, if you like, from a financial perspective. So we'll see how that goes, Dom. Yeah.
The squad's going to be totally decimated, isn't it? And
it is, and I think what it looks like is it's decimated from the outside looking in, but obviously in normal circumstances at this point where it's the playoff final day actually on Saturday, I believe. We would be well and truly into, if we had missed out on the playoffs, let's just say we finished where we finished for argument's sake, we'd be well and truly into the recruitment cycle anyway. You'd be looking at players who potentially could come in. You might even be looking at some of them players in the playoff final. You'd be certainly looking to build another promotion challenging squad. But the problem is we're not there. Things are very different, and I think it's quite fair of me to say that the transfer market is dead at the moment.
Yeah, of course.
It's being done by anybody. There are certain clubs who have told their players they've no idea how they're going to pay them beyond the end of their contracts, if they even stay or they don't stay. They're not at Bradford, but other clubs. We're not quite in that position, but it's going to be. All I will say is when the window opens, and there is talk that it could be a season-long transfer window, which will be very interesting. It's going to get very interesting, and it will be down to how good your recruitment is. I really think it's going to be down to how good your recruitment is, and we've got to try and nail it within what we're able to do. But again, without the time frames, we're kind of finger in the air stuff, you know.
I think once we've got a clearer picture, it'd probably be good to speak to you again because I think we're all kind of grasping at straws, really, trying because we want answers, don't we? It's a human thing. You want answers. You think that somebody must know something, but I don't think anybody does.
No, they don't. No, they don't.
I think if you look at the communication, or I were very, very complimentary of the EFL's communication early in the piece. I thought they nailed it. They were on top of it. We were getting a lot of updates. Last couple of weeks, things have slowed down. I think the Premier League call the shots in England, and that's natural. And the EFL kind of hang on the coattails, which is probably natural. But as a governing body, we have to take. I mean, the RFL. I used to work in rugby league. They've got the funding from the government now for their clubs, and they had a meeting today to void the season. Quite frankly, and they're a sport that is largely a summer sport, which is even more impacting on them. And they would literally be down in tools till next February. Now, I believe they've come out of that meeting today and said, well, we're going to give it one shot. We're going to try and work out a financial model of how we could play behind closed doors and not go bust. In about 2 weeks, that's going to come back and they're all going to say the season's over. But the idea, the point I'm trying to make is I know of clubs in rugby league that I speak to now who are already starting to wind it down because they know it's over. Yeah. But they're able to because they've got the governing bodies going. And I think I'm probably being a little bit unfair there because rugby league's a much smaller sport, but it's a fact. They've started to wind it down. And I do think it's really frustrating because we're so close to what we think we need and we're not quite where we are. And
I think the AFL just need to come out with something. Give us an idea as fans and as a club as well. I know you're doing voting on something, but give us an idea of where it's going to go, like they are doing in the RFL. You know,
we don't even know what the vote. You know, there's a big talk.
No, we don't know.
Vote, and we've not even been told what we're going to vote on. And all I would say is, Tom, is that weak messages create bad situations.
Yeah.
And at the moment, we are limping towards some problems because we need to know things, and it's frustrating when you speak to our players and you're trying to be honest with them and help them, and players both in and out of contract, and we just end up having a chat because it really feels like that.
I think to be fair to the EFL,
yes,
I just think it's too difficult. I think that you can think you come up with a solution, and then another problem comes up. It could be a contractual, financial.
Sponsorship. It is difficult, Dom. Yeah.
There isn't a salary big enough you could pay anyone I know to be Rick Parry.
But they've just got to do it, though, haven't they? I know it's difficult, but they've got to make a decision.
Hang on a minute.
Not now. Not now.
You run a business, all right? What if the government said we're withdrawing all furlough funding? You've got to pay your staff that you furloughed. You've got to pay them out of your own purse because we've just got to make a decision. So you're paying that. Your profit is going to get eaten into.
I don't know what the question is.
It's not a question. You're saying you've got to make a decision. What if the government's decision is you've got to pay your staff? We're not going to subsidise it for you anymore.
I think
I don't understand your point.
Well, just on this point, if you look at the club,
probably best you leave the call then.
The EFL.
I'm hosting at your prop pot. You'll all go.
The EFL are on about.
Abby, you just come in now. Sorry, 1 minute.
The EFL are talking about, having enough power as an executive.
Oh, the shopping's arrived. Sorry. Sainsbury's shopping.
The EFL have said, Rick Parry said in the meeting last week, I've got the power as an executive to make the decision. But they still want to hand it to the clubs. And I kind of understand that because it's about accountability. And it's a massive call to make. And whoever makes it could be responsible for some casualties. Winners, losers. We
just don't want to. What's happened in Scottish football, where it's turned into an absolute farce with Dundee and all that. We don't want one of those scenarios. Whatever happens.
Well, that's rushing into a decision, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it is, but they've still got to make a decision. We can't be sat in a year's time on another Zoom call. So I wonder what EFL are going to do. Eventually they're going to have to. I think, Dom, you think that they're going to go for another 5 years and no decisions are going to be made.
No, I don't think that. But this is what happens. Everybody gets into a meeting and then everyone starts chipping in and everyone's like, well, actually, it's a right mess, isn't it? And they leave the meeting with no decision.
With no decision.
And that's what we're doing here.
That's what we're doing.
I think it's been probably complicated just on that as well by, early in the piece when we were meeting with other clubs, everyone was kind of together, helping each other out and, you can help us with the tax man, you can help us with this, but then all of a sudden it has sort of feels now it's descending into clubs looking after each other, and that's natural, I guess, to look after yourself.
Yeah.
Well, let's wind it back to the club then. Obviously, something that you played a big part in, Ryan, as people in your position do, was the season tickets. We had this great campaign come together. We were obviously hoping for big season ticket sales, as we always do, because if there's one thing Bradford City fans can do, it is buy a cheap season ticket. Yeah. So we were excited for that, and to take a decision to stop those sales, which is a decision that's fair on the fans, I guess, which isn't something that always happens in football. That must have been difficult.
very difficult, but I think you've nailed it at the end there. Fair on our fans. I don't think there's been much fair on our fans for quite a while. And it was something that was bothering me. I was becoming increasingly uncomfortable in April about the fact that season tickets were still available. You're essentially selling a product that doesn't exist rather, if you think deeply about it. We had a number of people get in touch saying, what are you going to do about it? I don't think it's right. And I kind of wanted to say, yeah, I'm with you. We're working on it. But we have to understand the impact of ending our income stream. And then we took the decision. And I never doubted this for 1 second. A number of people didn't get in touch then to say, well, I was going to buy one. And I never doubted. We never doubted that. The support's brilliant. We do have a lot of unwavering support, and it's been important because you talk about thick and thin, and the last I think certainly 2018-19 was thin and thin. It was a disgrace. So it was a tough season for everybody involved, and it hurt a lot of people. But the season ticket campaign was obviously something we were quite looking forward to, and we realised that we needed to take a different course. Some people think we've made a big call, the wrong call. I don't think you can say it's the wrong call. It's a big call, but our owner is committed to covering those gaps if we need to cover them. We're doing okay at the moment. We're navigating our way through, and obviously, and this is where our supporters will play a big part, because when the time is right and we get the new package together, then we start driving and we start working on our budget for next season. We have to find a way how we might be able to get out of this division, because we've got the best fan base in certainly outside Premier Division to some degree.
Here, Ryan.
I think when the time comes, the fans obviously will turn out. They'll buy the season tickets. I think even more so now, because after a drought.
You saw the reaction to the cutouts that even buy themselves a plastic version of themselves.
Yeah, we have got good fans generally. People who would put in money to this club if you really need. So we'll look at the administration, but Dom ran to York for that. If push came to shove, the fans would definitely put their hands in their pockets for anything, really.
Well, thanks for acknowledging that, Tom. I'm not running to York again, by the way, Ryan.
I'm definitely not. But
let's you mentioned Stefan there, and obviously that he wants to invest in the club, and there's got to be an element of protecting your investment there.
Yeah.
But a big question that has been asked by a lot of fans, and it's something I must admit I'm curious about as well. It's difficult again because of the scenario we're in, but is he looking for a buyer? Because obviously Twitter is an absolute mess of people thinking that they know stuff, including us sometimes. Yeah. But is he looking to sell?
No. Quite frankly, no. I mean, the one thing he's always said to me is he will put right what went wrong. And I believe him, because I've got no reason to not believe him. He came off the plane a couple of Decembers ago when things were as dark as they've been at that club for 20 years, and he began putting it right with some significant investment. I mean, I've shared what he's had to put into the club already. I think he knows it's inconceivable he won't be putting that a significant more in if we have to carry on in the guys we're in. But look, he's got a desire to he believes in what he's got off the field, in Julian leading the ship from a financial perspective. I get on with him pretty well. Me and Julian work very closely. We've got a good staff. We're not the biggest team, but people care about that club. That's important. The people off the field really care. I mean, there's no one who doesn't put the front foot forward every day and give it a shot. But we've got to get back to what we were in terms of being a sustainable business, because we've become, and largely down to that crazy summer of 2018. I have to be honest, it changed the way the club was heading.
If I ever see Eddie out and about.
Where he lives, if you want, Dom.
So yeah, we've, but no, he's not looking to sell the business because he wants to get it where it was at least and power forward, and he knows that's his responsibility. And the conversations I have, he's never once alluded to me of that. And let's face it, if there was a time not to want to own a football club, now would probably be it. And he's certainly not said that.
Stefan's a shrewd businessman, as we all know. He's, and he's, like you say, it's good that he's not necessarily looking to sell now. But has he done other things? Has he spoke to the landlord of our stadium about maybe he could let us off some rent for a period of time?
I think if that conversation needed to happen, it could happen. It's not something that's not happened yet, but it's not. It doesn't mean it's not.
What's their relationship like with Gordon and Stefan? Do they talk at all? Do they,
don't think a massive amount of discussion goes on. I think that was a fairly historic deal when they bought the club. When Stefan purchased Bradford City, that was an ongoing agreement. The club had an active rental agreement on the Valley Parade, and I think that lasts until 2028. So obviously, some conversations will be had soon in the near future about what that might look like.
You always get in a pub pre-match when we're going to buy our stadium back. It's always one old guy ranting about it every single week, and we're like, mate, it's like 10 years.
Yeah, it's an asset, isn't it? And at the time when the club needed to release the asset to survive, it did. The relationship, as far as I'm concerned, is fine. We've never missed a rental payment in the time I've been at the club, and I don't.
Good.
So you never know, but if that has to be explored, it's something we'd explore. But at this stage, we're finding a way, and that's really important.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Final question then, Ryan. We've kept you for a fair bit now, but the players. So the players that are still contracted, the players that are loyal to the club, that have done well for us. I'm thinking, we've got Anthony O'Connor. He's still there. See what I did there for you, Anthony. I'm getting back into your good books. Clayton Donaldson, obviously local lad, he's heavily invested, emotionally in the club, and I know that having spoken to him earlier in the season, are they all right? Are they doing all right? Generally, what's their, because
they keep it fit.
I can't go into the office. I'm pretty unhappy about it. It's difficult to motivate yourself and stuff like that. As a footballer, physical fitness is literally the aim of your game.
Is Jake Reeves going to come back about 14 stone?
I think they're, I speak to a fair few of them. I think they're largely frustrated. I thought it was nice what Callum had to say when he left the club, and Dylan Connolly as well. They were really kind of gutted to leave, and I think that's a good thing. That's a good thing because we perhaps didn't have that last summer with certain people that left the club, and it's understandable. It was a horrendous season. Everything connected to it just needed piling into a trash can, and hopefully we never have to think about it again. But it was something a lot of people learned from at the club about how low you can go if you get it wrong. But no, I think on the whole that they want to do whatever the club needs them to do. If that means play, I think they would play. But I don't sense much desire from any footballer at the minute to put themselves in that situation. I don't really blame them because I can't really sound that excited about the prospects either. But they're all right, they keep themselves fit. They are furloughed, so they don't work for us, so to speak. They can't go out and do training together as a team. Yeah. If that changes, then it could change, but it hasn't at the moment. But they are, they're in decent spirits. It's tough for the guys that are out of contract because they just need that security or that information that we just can't give them at the moment because we just need to know what's going on with this season, and then we can work forward. But for the guys who are here next season, look, they've got points to prove. They've got a relatively new, he's not a new manager, is he? Stewart's a legend of this club, but he's relatively new for some of them. And, the likes maybe someone like a Harry Pritchard, who's relatively new to Bradford City, you might be looking forward to playing, having a pre-season with Stewart in that and getting with it on a
Is there a WhatsApp group? The team WhatsApp group?
Oh, yeah, there will be. Yeah. I mean, it's not one I want to be in.
Why not?
They do chat, and I always say to Clayton, how's the mood, in camp, and Clayton will say, yeah, they seem all right, but I think at the minute they're probably a little bit quiet. They're just waiting to see what's going to happen because
it's the job's end of the day, and it's really it is sad, and I totally get on the point that it affects broadcasters and media and stuff, and so many people working in the environment, and the players and everybody at the club, and it is, if you think about it that way, it's terribly sad what's going on.
And it probably will affect the playing market, won't it? We've said that the transfer window is pretty quiet at the minute, which is not great for a player that's either looking for a new club or we're looking, in the market, and there's for the first time in a long time, supply is probably going to outweigh demand, and that usually reduces the value of a product. We've seen petrol prices. It's similar. It's just, players are products. They're expensive pieces of kit, and like I say, it's going to be an interesting short-term, long-term future for the game, I think.
Well, I'm desperate for football to come back because I can't stop buying Bradford City bump on eBay. I bought a full set of Premier League 2000 stickers.
You don't? We hadn't even set this up, Ryan. We have not set this up. I'm just wearing this casually. I always wear vintage shirts because they're trendy.
Gary Jones, right?
Yeah, Gary Jones. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Well, thank you, Ryan. I really appreciate you joining us and taking the time out. It's really good of you. So thanks for
that. We should just mention, obviously, that BC AFC ribbons. They've got loads of items up for auction at the minute. They're raising funds for Bradford Burns unit. So get on there. She's done an unbelievable job so far. Obviously, as well, last night there was the captain's conversation. Gary Jones's match worn shirt is up for auction again. That is something a Bradford City fan wants to bid on. I'm going to have a bid. Really Tom, shall we chip in and cut it in half like we did with that Premier League football?
Oh yeah, remember that? Yeah, we were arguing like we're doing tonight in the Zoom call. We argue a lot, and we're arguing over football, and we get to cut it in half and just talk to each other football.
Absolutely worthless. Yeah. Anyway, Ryan, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate, and fingers crossed things get back to normal as soon as possible. And and as ever, if we can do anything to help, and that goes, I'm sure, for every single Bradford City fan. I know that when we asked if there were any questions, a lot of them said, "Is there anything we can do to fundraise? Bring the kit out and we'll buy it." That sort of thing. So,
like I say, guys, we're working on it. It's not that we don't want the help or support. The supporters are fantastic. They've been brilliant with me ever since I've been at the club. It's just, we've got to get the products right and let people understand them. We're working on the kits. I'm at it as fast as we can on the kits. I want to get the kits out. I want to get the home kit out. I think it's a really good home kit. That might come back to haunt me, but I think it's a good home kit.
Can you give us a scoop? Can you give us a scoop? Is it stripes, hoops, diagonals?
It's better than the 2018-19 kit, but I don't think that's saying it right a lot. So we'll see. But
that's not a scoop.
I've got an old pair of underpants from Premier League days that are full of holes. So that's better than the 2018 kit.
So you got to allow me a little bit of spin right at the end. I think it's a good kit. We want to get it out. ABEC are doing all they can. If anyone knows anyone's got a ship that they want to drive out to China, I'll jump on it and we'll go get them. But we're working.
It's not Dunkirk, Ryan.
Hopefully,
get them.
July. Hopefully, we'll be looking at an early July launch. Fingers crossed, might even be earlier, but we'll see where we get to.
Great stuff.
Great. Well, Ryan from Bradford City, thank you very much for joining us. It's been nice to have a serious conversation, hasn't it, Tom?
It has been really nice, and we did bicker a bit, didn't we? Like a married couple.
We didn't have to sit on separate couches in the cop either.
I know, that's true, yeah.
Preloaded questions.
Yeah.
Well, last time we sat on a sofa in the stadium, there was a virus on the other sofa. But the less said about that interview, the better.
We appear to have found a vaccine anyway for that one. So
good. Oh, look, they're all coming now, aren't they?
How long have we got?
Yeah. Oh, Ryan, don't get yourself in trouble.
Yeah, don't. Right, I'm going to stop it now, lads.
Mate, cheers. Thanks a lot. Cheers, Ryan.